All right. And with that little robotic announcement, I'm going to kick it over to Jenny Boyer to start us off.
All right, thank you, James. Well, we wanted to start this meeting today with just a big welcome to everyone that has registered. We're really grateful for the participation here so that we can share all of our exciting updates about ReShare and what's going on within the community. My name is Ginny Boyer. I'm with IPLC, and alongside Charlie Barlow, I'm one of the co-chairs of the ReShare Steering Committee. Just a reminder to anyone, this meeting will be recorded. We will post it to the Project ReShare website later this week. Feel free to share that recording with other colleagues that may not have been able to attend today. We would also ask that you use the chat here in Zoom to share any questions that you may have or any ideas that come up during this meeting. We will have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. Jill, do you want to do the slide paging? Here we go. In regards to our agenda today, we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to keep the welcome fairly brief. But to start, we'll hear from two of our ReShare implementers from ILLiad and the IPLC, who will talk about their implementations and what they have going on within their consortia. We will then share the latest updates on our exciting new initiative called ReShare Digital in regards to progress to date and future directions. And we hope to close out the meeting today with updates from our many committees that are doing really incredible work across the community. Circling back to a really great welcome here, we especially want to welcome any newcomers. If this is your first time hearing about ReShare, being exposed to the project, we wanted to just elevate some points to help orient you to the project. ReShare has been reinventing the resource sharing capability since 2018. It is the first open source resource sharing community, which is designed to serve libraries, specifically those collaborating via consortia. Initially, we consisted of mostly academic consortia seeking a high degree of interoperability and a sense of empowerment, but we are an open community and really welcoming of a diversity of participants and collaborators on this good work. We are a unique partnership of consortia, libraries, and developers, including service providers, and we really work very closely together as a collaborative community in building this project. We are governed by a steering committee with a series of operational committees and working groups that work to support the activities of the project and to facilitate transparency and communication across our organization. We recently updated and revised our bylaws in 2024, and this was to update our structures and just to touch base with how the project had grown and evolved since its inception. And we would encourage you to take a look at those. They are posted publicly on our website and really explain a lot about how our organization operates. Boston Library Consortium is our fiscal sponsor, and we are grateful to them. We collaborate very closely with them, as well as with Charlie, the executive director of BLC, who is also a co-chair of ReShare. Again, we are really grateful to have all of our newcomers, especially our newest ReShare member, which is the Orbis Cascade Alliance, which joined very recently as a consortial champion member. Have recently welcomed them into our steering committee and into our community and are really grateful for their participation. And at this point, I'd love to hand the presentation over to our first implementer, Matt Niehoff of Minitex, to talk about ILLiad and updates following their implementation. Thank you.
Let's get my screen sharing going here. Everybody able to see the slideshow? Awesome. Thanks for having me, everybody. My name is Matt Niehoff. I am a software developer at Minitex. My contact information here. I just kind of want to talk through our recent implementation and integration with ReShare for our MinLink platform, which is Minnesota's public library interlibrary loan network. So what Minitex resource sharing is we're really a lender without a collection. We are the lending arm of the University of Minnesota, but we participate on several different platforms. And because of that, we have developed a centralized request management system that we call Mira. Basically, we're extracting request information from all of these platforms we participate on and digitizing them internally, standardizing them, and that enables us to have a digital workflow that's distributed across our campus and with remote workers as well. Might sound excessive, but we participate on 6 different platforms. We are lenders on 6 different platforms, managing 11 symbols. We are generally an end of rota location, which means if you can't fill within your own platform, we will be there as the lender at the end of your lending string. We have various levels of integrations with these different platforms. Some of them do have API access. Some of them we are scraping digital PDFs, pull slips to get our request information in. So our newest system has been ReShare with Viewfind as our discovery layer for MinLink, and we have been able to have full API integration with them. So we're a unique implementer probably of ReShare, but hopefully you can follow along here as I take you through what resource sharing is for Minitex. So I mentioned we kind of take requests from the platforms rather than using the platform. So I kind of see it as our first step is downloading requests into our platform. Then we have identifying lenders, which for us we call verification. We have some automatic checking of various catalogs and records. And if we can't find it automatically, we do have staff who will go search other platforms for potential lenders as well. When we can, we do fill from the University of Minnesota collection directly. And if we can't, we will go be a borrower on another platform for you and lend that item back to you. We will then ship that either through electronic delivery or our referral processing unit, which is the physical handling of materials and receiving it on one system, shipping it on another. So when ReShare came along for MinLink, we were sitting with a situation where we now have an API for an app that already exists. And our API is the same actions that's being taken through the web app. So it's not a special backend API we had to decrypt. And it means that our staff can still use the web app when they need to. The actions are very clearly defined. We don't need to make a bunch of extra calls as a developer. If I want to emulate my staff member pressing a ship button, I just make that same API call the button's making. The main things we do with the API is we will query for new requests here. This is a GET request on the patron requests endpoint. You can see here we're filtering for the res idle status. That is for new requests. And then basically all of our updates happen through a post on the request endpoint through the perform action call, providing a request body. So here's an example, respond yes. And then we have optional parameters, which they might be empty, they might be optional, or they might be required, but it's a pretty easy API to work with that way. I'll kind of take you through now what that looks like for us in actual calls here. So here's our download. In the screenshot I've got here, we've got 4 new requests. We are taking the action of marking it will supply and marking the print slip pulled. So some libraries might actually use the pull slip. We just mark it as printed because we have our own pull slips. And so that happens every 15 minutes. We are pulling new requests into our system. If we're gonna borrow requests from our MinLink patrons, we search Viewfind for bib IDs that we want to use for the record. Sometimes catalogs don't cluster neatly, so we are able to save a few bib ID. Here is a screenshot from our internal app. We're able to send an open URL request to a listener with our bibliographic information and the bib ID. That gives us back a new request number in the ILL request module. We save that internally in Mira. And we are regularly monitoring this. Again, every 15 minutes, we're kind of monitoring the system and updating. And that has meant if we have 3 records here, we don't need staff to place 3 requests. They do it one time, and then I can automatically retry for each ID they've identified. And that's the check-in and shipped action for anybody who's actually been in ReShare when we actually get the item in. We recently got non-returnables up and running, which is great. Minitex uses article exchange. So in this field, we are providing an article exchange link and password, and we are filling the request. And here's what it looks like in ReShare. And here's what I do with my API call. So it's the same thing again as clicking that button. When we get items back, we're able to process those efficiently internally because we track the barcode we physically sent and we have the request. So if we lose the request slip in shipping, we're able to use the item barcode to retrieve what request that was for. Staff are able to just kind of, sometimes we need to receive on a system and then we need to ship on a system. With our MinLink request, we're able to do that automatically in their existing workflows. And for that, we are using the return item and ship actions in the ReShare API. So that's nice that they don't have to separate those out and update those manually. And if we've checked all our networks and we can't fill it for you, we are able to not supply. One thing we've started doing with this is we are automatically not supplying if we don't have special staff notes or anything. So that API integration has been really handy for us. I also mentioned for returns, it's nice because we can make an API call with our internal workflow as it is. The other thing we've started doing, which we haven't done on any other system, is sending messages directly from our workflows. So that has been really nice for our staff. I've heard they love it. They don't have to go out into the system to do it. They can, and that's great that that exists. And I'm not pulling in new messages for them yet, though they would like that, I'm sure. But that has been really smooth for us and really helped us as we adopt this new system. And then just quickly, I was asked to kind of maybe highlight a few things we've done with other things we've done. We're working on a bid transfer process. We're able to use one of those bib records, and instead of borrowing from a MinLink library and lending to a MinLink library, we're able to reinitiate that request directly to those partners. That saves us a lot of handling time. We've done work with them on flagging duplicate requests. Our end of ROTA and lender of last resort work is work that they have done for us. We've extended the capabilities of the NSIP request item message. And just to give an idea of the MinLink libraries, we are working with multiple ILSs. As you can see here, we have 2 Circe Dynex, 2 Innovative, and Evergreen and Koha systems are being used in MinLink. So it's been a lot, but it's been exciting. I was happy to hear that they would have an API to integrate with our system because otherwise I have to get very creative. If you have any questions, I don't know what our time is for questions now, but my contact information is on here. You will probably get a vacation responder as of an hour from now because I'm flying out this afternoon, but you can also reach out to Jerry Moeller at Minitex if you need to get in touch. And that is what I have for you today. I'm not sure
All
who
right.
to.
We're next. So I will share my screen. Okay, so I believe you're seeing my slides. Is that correct? Oh, no.
Yes.
Now, yes. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Welcome. You just heard from Matt talk a lot about the really cool things that developers at MinLink are able to do with the ReShare system. Sid and I are going to talk a little bit about ReShare and ILLiad. So we'll go ahead and jump in on that. To introduce ourselves, my name is Clara Fehrenbach. I'm at the University of Chicago, the Document Delivery Services Librarian, and here you can see our lovely Phil the Phoenix mascot, even though we are not known for our sports.
And hi, my name is Sid Champagne. I'm at Johns Hopkins University, and you can see our fancy Blue Jay mascot there.
So we're here talking on behalf of BioDirect, which is a program of the IPLC, or the Ivy Plus Library Confederation, which includes members of the Ivy League, plus people like Sid and I, MIT, Stanford, JHU, and U Chicago. we implemented ReShare returnables at the very end of 2022. And one of the things that works best from our perspective, at least, is how easy it is to manage requests in ILLiad while relying on ReShare for the request distribution logic and fulfillment. So Sid will talk a little bit about how JHU is implementing the server add-on, and then I'll talk a little bit about UChicago's use of the server add-on and also the client add-on. A lot of this information is about ILLiad because ILLiad really allows us to take advantage of ReShare. We love ReShare and we love that how easy it is for us to get access to it without additional steps.
Yeah, so before I go into JHU's implementation of the server add-on, I wanted just to make sure we were all on the same page here and with some definitions. So Atlas developed client and server add-ons to send and track ReShare requests in ILLiad. We use a server add-on at JHU, which is a configurable tool that allows us to filter ILLiad requests to ReShare, pull the status of those requests, and to update ILLiad with the statuses, and then bounce them back to ILLiad from ReShare if they are unfilled. UChicago uses both a server and client add-on. And the client add-on allows staff to manually discover and send requests to ReShare, and Clara's going to share a little bit more about that part of it. So before the implementation of the add-on at JHU, patrons had to submit to either BarDirect or ILL web forms, and it resulted in a lot of pretty unhappy patrons, just a lot of confusion, and this also required a lot of staff intervention where we had to explain things to them or check to see whether they submitted to one form or the other. And then we also had a lot of unfilled materials because it was on the patron to resubmit to one or the other form, essentially. So with the add-on, we were able to streamline these services a lot. Essentially, a patron can submit a request with 0 staff intervention, and it could be filled with either ILLiad or ReShare pretty much seamlessly. Users have one form they can submit to, they have one interface, and they've got like very clear expectations about what the deliverables are. So there's basically no staff intervention between items moving between ILLiad and ReShare. It's great. It's fully automated. So this is just an example of what an item that was routed to ReShare from ILLiad looks like. You can kind of see the ReShare identifier there. And then on the next slide, there is that same item as it appears in ReShare. So yeah, there's really no change in workflow for staff. It's very configurable. We've seen a decrease in the amount of troubleshooting we do with our users. It's been like kind of suspiciously successful. Like I wish I had something I could critique about it, but it's really great. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass it off to Clara to share UChicago's work with the add-on.
Yeah, so I know that there are a lot of ILL nerds here, so I wanted to kind of zoom in on what the server add-on configuration looks like. Like JHU, UChicago does use the server add-on to distribute our borrowing requests into and out of ReShare. So here you can see basically exactly the types of fields you would expect to see in a server ILLiad add-on that does this sort of thing. It allows staff to configure which queues are monitored for sending, which queues requests go into when they're unfilled. But what's really cool is that with ReShare, we can really specify what a filled status is and what that means. So for us, we had it if something went to, I'm sorry, it's off my screen, so I can't read it. That's why I'm tripping over myself. But we could specify what filled meant, whether that meant just when the request was shipped or just when it got to us. Like you can decide how you want it to count as filled, which I find really exciting and different than other add-ons we've used. And that's thanks to the ReShare API that allows that. So why this is a big deal for us. Sid talked about the patron benefit at UChicago and other places too. It allows us to distribute requests seamlessly between different consortia and fulfillment networks and services. So just like the automation that Sid described, where requests come in without any staff intervention, this allows it to be transferred between different fulfillment networks without any intervention. I know the chart on the screen is too small to read, but I wanted to just kind of demonstrate the kind of complex automated workflows we're able to achieve with loan requests using ReShare with ILLiad. So on the right side, again, I know you can't read it, but on the right side, basically everything happens in ReShare, and on the left is a different service that we use, and we're able to switch between them. In the middle, they can cross if they're unfilled in one service, they try the next service. And we're really excited that we can do this again without the patrons or the staff needing to do anything at all. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the client add-on as well. So we installed the client add-on at around the same time, and this is really just another option for staff to send requests into Barlow Direct. They can check it if a request comes in without a standard number, so our automations can't act on it. They can send something confidently into ReShare with an idea of how likely it is to be filled before it goes off into the ether. They also are able to use it on unfilled requests. If it bounces out of one of our services, we can look and see if there are other records that we might be able to use instead. As Matt had mentioned, it's not always, the Ferberization isn't always perfect, or the clustering isn't always perfect. So we're really excited to be able to have a little bit more control there. Unfortunately, we still can't see the exact shelf status, but we can see the total number of holding libraries and how many are in lendable collections. So it gives staff a little bit of an idea of what to expect. And all of that to say, similar to what Matt had said, all of these integrations we've talked about are on the borrowing side, and we can still use the ReShare app for anything that we want to. It's a good thing that all of our automations are on the borrowing side, because we can use ReShare to print the bands and update the requests and take advantage of the really streamlined interface that ReShare provides. It's a lot easier to train students on how to use this interface versus other ones. And so we're really glad that we can still take advantage of a lot of the strengths that ReShare brings, especially in the staff interface and processing. We're really happy that ReShare allows integrations like this, and it allows both staff and users to take advantage of everything in ReShare without having to learn something new. And that concludes our presentation. And I think that we'll have time for questions at the end. So I will stop sharing my screen now. But as with Matt, you're welcome to reach out to either Sid or I. And during the Q&A, I know we have a lot of IPLC colleagues on the call, and we welcome anyone chiming in.
Okay, and up next we have an update on ReShare Digital from Alan Jones. And Alan, I'm pretty sure you're here. I can't find you in the list right this moment, but I'm going to go ahead and share a pre-recorded video of a presentation Alan has created for us, and make sure that that's working. And again, please keep putting questions in the chat.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alan Jones, Director of the Digital Library and Technical Services at the New School in New York City. I'm hoping you've heard of Project ReShare, the folio-based resource sharing broker that has over 120 institutions in the United States, Europe, and soon Australia. Up to this release, ReShare has been focused on returnables, or the request and supply of physical materials. Today, I'll be talking about non-returnables, or the supply of digital materials. This can come in many forms: scans of articles and book chapter requests, the supply of licensed materials such as articles from databases, ebooks, and many other types of digital lending. In late February of 2024, the ReShare community embarked on its first software enhancement vote, where the community, made up of implementers who contribute to the development of the ReShare platform based on their hosting fees and membership dues, collectively decided on the next directions for Project ReShare to grow. In this sense, ReShare is a platform cooperative. Major decisions about the platform and the direction of the software are voted on by the membership. Here, you'll see that there was a pretty even distribution of interest in starting with book chapters or ebook lending. Controlled digital lending was third. Special collections, particularly the hosting of dissertations and theses, was fourth, and article delivery was last. It should be noted that t-shirt sizes representing the amount of effort were included in the project descriptions. I take these results to mean that the ReShare community wanted book chapters and ebook ILL sooner because they thought they would take less effort to build rather than article delivery, not that articles was any less important. Development then is funded by the community, prioritized by the product team, turned into actionable user stories by subject matter experts, and then built by developers until the full feature is delivered. What I'll be speaking about now is the current release that's been worked on by all of those groups. Frequently, features are sponsored by individual institutions or groups. This slide shows the contributors who made this particular release possible. While initially an MVP for non-returnables, the work sets ReShare on a path towards full-scale digital lending services. Let's take a look at what's already been delivered. To start, users can fill out a blank data entry form for their citation. Whether an article from a database or scanned book chapter, users can choose what type of content they want delivered. Fields in the form will change based on the material they choose. For example, articles may have a journal title, a volume, an issue, while book chapters might have a chapter title, a book title, an ISBN. In the example shown in this slide, this is a book chapter that's going to be requested. Metadata can also come from an open URL or it can also come from a discovery record. Later enhancements to the shared index might include book chapters within viewfinds or even ebooks. Before the request is submitted, a copyright agreement window is shown to the user that they'll have to accept before proceeding with their request. The text is customizable at the consortium level. Once the user has submitted their request, they'll receive confirmation. Now let's take a look at what the ILL librarian is seeing on the back end. In the staff interface, operators receive the request and they can begin processing. It's important to note the request could be a licensed ebook, a DRM-free ebook, a scan request for a book chapter, or an article. Here, you'll see that staff can reevaluate, resubmit, approve, or reject the request before it's even sent to a supplying library. It may be that a transaction is more than an institution's permissions or fair use policy can accommodate. The book may be available locally. They may want to purchase an ebook of it, or any other number of rejection reasons. They can also link the request to a shared index record for more information that their supplying library can use when filling this request. This librarian wanted to enter information from the shared index to help identify suppliers by adding an ISBN and other identifiers. Notice that the chapter information didn't get overwritten, but the data from the MARC record overlays the information that the patron supplied. Once the request has been edited, the request can be sent to the network for fulfillment. Now let's pivot to what the supplier sees. Here, the book chapter is requested in the supply app. The supply app is the view for all incoming lending requests. Once the supplier sees the metadata of the request, they can respond to the requesting library to say that they're willing to supply the item or move the request on to the next supplier in the list of potential supplying libraries. Sometimes this is called the rota. If they decide to supply the book chapter, they can print a pull slip that a staff member can take to the stacks, retrieve the item, and then scan it. This might be awkward if you're getting a book chapter from an ebook, so the operator can just mark the pull slip as printed if they don't need to go to the stacks for the item. After the operator retrieves the book chapter or the article from the e-resource, or it could even be a scan from a printed volume, they can continue to process the ILL patron's request. For now, the staff at the supplying library would upload the file to a secure file exchange service. If this were an ebook ILL, they might just need to get the URL from the publisher or the aggregator platform that has a tokenized or encrypted or specialized URL for access to the ebook. For the 1.16 version of ReShare, Minitex will be using OCLC's article exchange service to securely send files between suppliers and requesters. Outlined below, you can actually see the URL field where Minitex is going to be placing their article exchange URL. This URL then gets emailed to the patron when the request updates in the originating institution's request app. Once the 18626 message is received from the supplying library that the document has been uploaded to a secure location, an email is sent with the URL for the patron to pick up the file at their convenience. The same link will be available in ViewFind within the My Account function for a limited number of days, and then when the document is expired, the link will be removed from patron access. The advantage of focusing on the 18626 messaging first is that we can and will build different file delivery channels for different types of non-returnables in their networks. Community members have asked for support from the Odyssey protocol used by both ILLiad and RapidILL. Still others may want to create links to a shared storage system within the collection. All of these methods can be developed depending on how the consortia wishes to implement. As you can see, the ReShare digital roadmap has some exciting advancements to add on to our current physical items and delivery platforms. All of the messaging that happens between partners uses my beloved ISO 18626 protocol. Getting back to the community vote, we're seeing the road ahead for ReShare Digital. As the community gains experience with each of these channels, we're building components for the next stretch of road. The Boston Library Consortium, with their investment in controlled digital lending, paved the way for hosted ebook collections in Haiku by helping us think through how to limit access to a digital file. Minitex, University of Pittsburgh, Seton Hall University, and Washington and Jefferson College invested in these very first few steps of the book chapter workflow I just demonstrated. PALCI has given us ways to think about how consortia might host ebooks in a local platform using their Haiku application. This all depends on licensing restrictions. Again, though, each step on this current problem helps ReShare members address these future needs. We recognize that not every local network will have the broad range of materials that their patrons need. WeShare, or We Share, is an initiative to think beyond individual ReShare groups to other ReShare consortia and beyond using standard messaging protocols. Typically, this has been accomplished with proprietary APIs between vendors. We're seeking to work within the resource sharing vendor market to standardize how requests are transferred between these networks. Previously, this was accomplished through a process called transfer request. In a transfer request scenario, a request is thrown over the proverbial wall to another vendor's network. The requester would have to be a member of both networks, or they'd have to subscribe to or even use both softwares in order to accomplish the interlibrary loan. Currently, this means the request would have to be managed in the supplying network software, unless there's some type of business relationship between the vendors with their partners and with their groups. WeShare looks to extend that network to partners and vendors who are willing to work closely together to fill the areas which their local network can't fill. The requirements of each community is for as close as real-time updates as possible. We may not need to know which library inside the network will fill that request or how many libraries have passed on filling the request, but they need to be able to see whether the request is in process, completed, or whether the supplying network is unable to supply the request. One of the biggest requirements of the WeShare initiative is bidirectionality and mutuality between partners. Libraries should be able to process ILL requests in the softwares of their choice, rather than being forced to use a particular vendor's software because that's where the book is coming from. In this sense, WeShare is as much about the social norms within and between networks, whether vendors or other nodes, as it is about the technology. This slide shows some of the questions that potential partners might ask in order to help members of their community. I also want to thank Tom Bruno in particular for becoming co-convener of the subject matter experts team, as well as for the hard work that he and Team eBook did on the functional requirements for ebook lending. In large part, their work continues to shape how ReShare will work with different types of ebook lenders and content providers, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they come up with next. Also, I want to recognize all the folks on the subject matter experts team who worked this year on different types of user stories for non-returnables. Many work on things like book chapters, theses and dissertations, community-hosted ebook platforms. The list can just go on and on. As you can see from my presentation, we're just getting started. If you're interested in working with the SMEs, we're always looking for members, and the subject matters experts group is an open group. If you're interested in joining, please email me to get included on the invite. Thanks for joining me in this update of what we're working on in release 1.16 and beyond. As you can see, there's a ton of community activity going on in ReShare. In subsequent releases, we'll refine the workflows I demonstrated, expand the number of different groups that can be requested from, and improve in the areas where friction exists, introducing new delivery methods, different types of automations and integrations needed by the ReShare community along the way. Already, I've heard rumblings of novel ways to exchange theses and dissertations. The SMEs are certainly thinking about articles and book chapters and ILLiad compatibility. And as always, ebooks, ebooks, and ebooks. I've tried to leave a few minutes for discussion, so please use the Zoom chat to post any questions that you might have. Thanks, everyone.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, a different screen this time.
Jill, I just wanted to say one other thing. I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody that sponsored 1.16. Without that funding, it wouldn't have actually happened the way that it did. So a huge shout out to University of Pittsburgh, to the PALCI folks, to BLC for the controlled digital lending stuff that they did, to Seton Hall, to Washington and Jefferson. I'm sure I've forgotten others, but it's that type of contribution that actually allows us to really take this forward. And so I just wanted to thank everyone.
All right, and we are still seeking additional financial support to work on that roadmap that Alan demonstrated so nicely in his video. We'll have the recording available after this meeting, along with a link to the video itself, so you'll be able to take a look at that. And thank you again to our contributors. We've already brought in addition to the work that was done by Minitex and BLC, we also were able to bring in an additional $116,000 from the contributors that Alan just mentioned. So thank you again. And I'm going to pass back to Charlie.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Charlie, one of the co-chairs of Project ReShare Steering Committee. Alan, I'm going to take a leaf out of your book next time and record my presentations to keep me on track. That was really terrific. Thanks so much. So I'm here to give just a few updates on ReShare's various communities and committees. As many of you know, we are volunteer-led, and the success of ReShare is dependent on a really vast number of individuals across a really wide range of committees. Our steering committee provides leadership of the overall project. We just welcomed 4 new members to the steering committee over the last several weeks and months. Isaac from Orbis Cascade Alliance, Clara from UChicago, Jerry from Minitex, and most recently Carl from PALCI. Also a huge thanks to one of our outgoing steering committee members, David Larson from the University of Chicago, for his many, many years of service and leadership to Project ReShare. David, we wouldn't be where we are without you. On the communications and marketing front, this group has been busy over the last several months refreshing our website and expanding our presence at various conferences around the country and around the world. Just this week, we've had representation at the NWIL conference on the West Coast. Next week, we'll be at WolfCon in London. If you're there, please do come and say hello to us. On the finance front, this group has been busy refining our dues model and working to build long-term sustainability plans to support the continued growth of ReShare's membership and implementations. The fundraising crew have been busy working on external fundraising proposals to further extend ReShare's capabilities, particularly in the digital space. Our product committee has been working to coordinate and refine product strategy and service to our ReShare digital initiative with representatives from a number of our implementing consortia. And then, as Alan said, our SMEs, our subject matter experts, have been busy refining functional requirements and user stories as he described in his presentation. There are many, many opportunities here for you to get involved. If any of what I've just said sounds at all compelling, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to welcome you into one of these groups. So please do reach out at info@projectreshare.org to get involved. And then finally, I'm going to close out with kind of what's next for ReShare membership. We'll be having a business meeting on October 30th. There'll be a registration forthcoming for current ReShare member organizations and libraries of member consortia. It's wonderful to see nearly 160 people in this Zoom room today. The momentum that ReShare is gaining is really quite remarkable. So this particular business meeting will have some more in-depth updates from our committee chairs and co-chairs. We'll have another call for participation and ways to get involved, a longer update on ReShare digital fundraising aspirations, and then a chance just for us all to share ideas and network with one another in a water cooler discussion. So please stay tuned for a registration that'll be going out to our member email lists relatively soon. And I think with that, I'm going to turn it back to James to help facilitate Q&A. But thanks everyone for joining. This has been really terrific.
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you to everybody who presented today. This was I am embedded deep in this project, and even every time we get together, I'm fascinated to hear what's going on, how folks are using this software in the wild, and just the amazing things that this community is able to do. I'm not seeing any questions so far in chat. The one that was asked was in response to Clara and Sidney's presentation about where folks can get the Atlas add-ons that they spoke of. Those links are in chat if folks want them, and we'll make sure to highlight those as well for anybody who is interested. For the time being, feel free to put questions in chat or to raise your hand, and we'll call on you as we see folks come up. Not seeing anything just yet. I can kick things off right now with this is maybe to Ginny and Charlie and Jill. Are there particular targets? You've talked a little bit about fundraising for the ReShare Digital Initiative. Can you say a little bit about what some of those initial targets for fundraising are at the time being to kick off the next phases of that project?
Sure, I can jump in and just let you all know that on the projectreshare.org website, there's a great amount of detail there with respect to some of the fundraising efforts that we're doing to support ReShare Digital's development efforts. And we set some milestones in place for the project in order to kind of make sure we built enough funds up to move us to the next phase of the project. which is community community determined priorities, which Alan covered in his presentation. So with ebook ILL and book chapter delivery being sort of first on the list, our initial target is right around that $250,000 to $300,000 mark. And that will allow us to continue on that pathway to develop out some of the functionality that Alan presented on. Over the course of time, we have continued to iteratively develop on the ReShare platform overall, and we expect to continue to do that. We are also pursuing and seeking grant funding and other sources of funding as well. So we do just want to put that call out there that this is a great opportunity to get involved, especially if this aligns well with some of your institutional priorities for sharing materials in digital formats. And if anybody has questions or would like to speak about how to line that up with some of your internal, your local priorities, and you want to talk about how to get involved with the project, please use that same email address that Charlie referenced, info@projectreshare.org, and we would be glad to talk with you about what opportunities exist and how to go about supporting the project financially. Thank you.
I think I'll just add too that in addition to raising funds to accelerate our ReShare digital work, we're always keen to welcome inquiries about prospective membership in ReShare from libraries and from consortia and from allied organizations. So if that is at all compelling to you or your library or your consortium or your organization, please do reach out to us at that same email, and I'll paste in the chat another webpage with some more information about joining ReShare. Thanks.
Thanks for that information. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Again, feel free to put them in chat or to raise your hand and we can call on you in the meeting itself. Gregory.
Yeah, thanks. I am new to all of this, and I'm a little unclear on the ways in which an individual library that's not part of any particular consortium can benefit from some of these products and services that this community is working on.
I think that's a great question, Gregory. So to our presenters, as a standalone library or as a standalone library staff, how can they get involved, benefit from what's going on within Project ReShare?
Maybe I can take a first stab at it, and then I'll pass to our other folks on the call. Really excellent question. As we said kind of at the outset, initially ReShare was built around this concept of supporting groups who wish to share with each other, and really to impact the industry in a really positive way in terms of how we support sharing through standard protocols and through open APIs as we presented today. So there are lots of opportunities, I think, for individual institutions to benefit from this, both directly and indirectly. We have set up mechanisms for bringing individual institutions into the project to help influence development directions and so on. So we would love to talk with you. In addition to that, we are exploring the idea of how we might support individual institutions with additional services and ways of supporting collaborations that maybe don't exist today, but that you might be interested in the future. So Gregory, I would love to talk with you afterward if that's of interest to you, and if what you've seen here today is exciting. We have some ideas about how we can do better with supporting individual institutions in the future. And part of that is in having folks around the table shaping those conversations who will actually benefit from services and from software that we develop. So I'd love to talk with you more afterward. That is something that we are exploring as a steering committee right now. And I think there should be some good options probably available to us in the future. I'm just going to open it up to see if any others want to comment on that idea of individual institutions. Alan, an opportunity to say ISO 1866 again, perhaps
Like a
here.
quarter on this call.
Yep.
No, so there's a couple of things I would say. One, the SME group, like I said, is open to everybody. And one of the things that we found incredibly useful was that not everybody has ILLiad, not everybody has, so even if you're in one of those groups, it's incredibly useful to participate in some of those conversations, because we've been looking at Rapido integration, we've been looking at Alma integration directly and not necessarily using the web interface in the same way that Matt demonstrated things with Mira, thinking about what a direct connection to Alma might actually look like using 1866. There's my quarter. So there's a lot of different ways that not only individual libraries could contribute, but even if you are in a group and you're kind of using it a particular way, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to use it that way. As people are thinking about, kind of what the sustainability is of ILLiad and all of that, and as they look at different options there, people's needs grow. The other thing I was going to say is that a lot of I think Minitex has done an amazing job at getting us to think about the publics as well. I mean, a lot of the people who are using ReShare right now are academics, and they've really helped us think through a lot of the scenarios that, because we all kind of came out of this academic library situation, that their needs, not everybody has Odyssey, or not everybody has a particular resource sharing stack. And it's been really helpful to have those, even to have those conversations with people who haven't implemented ReShare yet, to learn from them and learn what their needs are.
I really want to highlight something that you said in your first point, Alan, too, that ReShare is a community, and we do welcome individual members, and it's more than just the software. Some of the work that Alan was describing about WeShare is an area where an individual contributor to ReShare could really have an impact in our advocacy efforts.
Well, thank you all very much. And yeah, I'd be happy to talk further after this meeting or whenever convenient.
I'm going to jump in, and before we end, make sure I answer the question about how non-returnables are delivered. And I just want to preface my answer with this is how it's happening now, and this is, this is first run on this. But what we're doing is patrons are both emailed that information and it's in their patron account. So we wanted that ability to it to be sent directly to the patron, but also perhaps unlike most of the people on this call, we absolutely have patrons who do not have email addresses or choose not to share them with us. We wanted to make sure they could go into my account to get that, because for some of our patrons, that is the only way that they would be able to get that information. So that's what we're working with right now. It's very, very new for us. So we're in the process of figuring out how does everything work. But we're excited about this, and we feel we're very happy right now with what we feel like the design and the concept of it is, that it really feels like it's going to be a good fit for us. And I'd be happy to talk with you further about it at any time.
All right. Thank you both, Gregory and Kyla, for your questions. Thank you for the answers. We do have just a few minutes, so maybe time for one more question if anybody's got one. Not seeing any, so I'll turn it back over to Charlie to kind of close this out and adjourn.
Sure. Thanks so much. This has been such an energizing meeting. It's been great to see everyone and learn about all of these various implementations of ReShare that are taking flight. And great too to just see so much interest from ReShare's membership, the broader library and information community. I see a number of vendors here as well. Welcome. I'm really excited about where ReShare is headed. Please, again, for those of you that are current ReShare members, look out for an invitation to our business meeting on October 30th. And please do email us if you are interested, one, in joining ReShare or joining one of ReShare's committees or in contributing to the ReShare digital fundraising drive. Thanks so much. We will post the recording to this and the slides on the website in the next few days, projectreshare.org. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Bye.